Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of MasterMind Minutes. I'm Gary Occhigrosso, the managing partner for Franchise Growth Solutions. And you can click on the link either above or below, depending on what platform you're watching this on, to learn more about what we do. And quick explanation, MasterMind Minutes. It's a quick webcast. It's where we share tips from experts in minutes, not hours. We have one guest. We ask one question and we get one expert answer, usually around 10 minutes. And of course, since there may be a lot of unanswered questions, we will always give you the contact information of our guest so that you can contact them directly if you have other questions or want to speak with them about their company or about what they do. This morning, our guest is Reginald Heard. He is the founder and CEO of Bankers One Capital, which is a national franchise finance company established in 2007, which opening up a finance company in 2007, that's probably a whole nother story. His company specializes in working with new and existing small business owners. Reg has more than 30 years of commercial banking experience doing SBA loans, conventional loans, real estate, leases. He'll tell us about that in a minute. He's also served 2 full terms on the Supplier Forum Board of Directors for the IFA, the International Franchise Association, and has actively served as a member on various IFA committees. I know Reggie probably 20 years at this point. So, Reggie, thank you for being with us here today. I appreciate it.
Fantastic, Gary, and thank you for the invitation to participate on your webinars.
Yeah.
Actually, excited to be one of your participants here. So
Great.
And I'm coming from social distancing from Newtown, Connecticut. So we got a little distance here.
No, I hear you. And I've been doing the social distancing, and I have my office is in the basement. My wife's office is upstairs. Well, my wife's office is the room formerly known as the kitchen. So that tells us a little bit about it. Reggie, before we kind of get into the one question,
Sure.
Tell us a little bit more about Bankers One Capital, about yourself, like, how you help small businesses and franchisors and franchisees.
Yeah, sure. And that you gave a good overview of my background. But as you mentioned, I started Bankers One Capital in 2007. That was kind of the onset right before the capital markets kind of had this turbulence. Everything went, all the wheels fell off the wagon. But Bankers One Capital, I had a 30 plus year, commercial banking background. A lot of the large money center banks went through really formal credit lending training. Worked for the large money center banks like GE Capital, MetLife Capital, CIT Group. It was CIT. I was their national account manager. Really got me laser focused on the franchise space. But in 2007, there was an opportunity for me to really launch Bankers One Capital and look at a couple of verticals. One was the franchise industry and totality, but then also the hospitality space and the restaurant kind of and medical field. So when I started Bankers One Capital, went off and then had a really good game plan. 2007 was great. 2009, capital markets, all the lenders came out offline. And similar to today's situation, it created more of an opportunity for me. So when I had the opportunity at that point, because I was a smaller company, I was more agile, speedboat approach. I turned into my kind of game plan around and looked internally to the businesses, to the franchise systems, and I got retained by one of the larger franchise systems out in the country, Focus Brands. So they put me on their retainer. To work with all of their franchisees to help them to navigate through the crisis, the financial crisis. I was active with the IFA to get the SBA to expand capital to small businesses. So even with the financial meltdown, I was quickly able to keep some of these deals alive and finding capital sources to keep deals that were leases that were signed, commitments that were rescinded, to find new funding sources to get those deals funded. And then as the capital markets kind of turned around and lenders started getting back in the marketplace, I was able to, again, utilize my core expertise because I had a strong commercial lending background in a full scale of disciplines of assets classes. I was able to still be that core consultant expertise to the franchisors to help assist their franchisees. So rather letting the franchisees go off to out and speaking to a bunch of banks that don't know anything about franchise lending, don't know anything about the concept itself. That particular bank may not be the right fit for that particular transaction. The franchisors would needed somebody to really be that navigating, person to manage the
Yep.
process.
Yep.
So then I took the as the economy got more proficient, I was able to solidify a lot of strong banking relationships and became more of a correspondent lender. So at being a correspondent lender, it's almost like being an in-house commercial lender for a particular bank, but as an outsourced loan officer. So that proficiency gave me the ability to package loans, get them underwriter ready, get them into the system without the banks having the process of kind of constantly turning and figuring out what the problems are of the issues are for the transaction. The value add to the franchisees were they didn't have to pay me a dime. I was always fully compensated by my banks. That there was no pass-through cost to them. They had multiple options to select from different lenders. I would bring proposals and term sheets so they can to evaluate, and it created a win-win situation for the franchisor, the franchisees, and the banks as well, because the banks had a really a strategic person with the expertise to bring transactions that were high quality transactions to them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I'll say that, if you could launch a business and actually help potential franchisees, startups get money back in the 07, 08, 09 era, that would be, that's really good. I mean, that's like saying, hey, if I'm on an airline, I want Captain Sullenberger at the controls because he knows how to get out of trouble. And that sounds like you know how to get people out of trouble and navigating kind of difficult times. So with that in mind, we're certainly not in that same type of economy today. We all know that what's going on right at this moment is very specific to the pandemic and some of the things that we've been dealing with. But given that, and I know people have gotten the PPP, and other people have seen opportunity that I've seen, and I've been talking with people about open a business now, especially if you're looking at retail and restaurant. There's a lot of great second generation space. Money is a lot less costly than it was, 6 months ago. What can you tell us about the environment now and for the future that you see that potential business owners, franchisees can take advantage of working with someone like you, and how the future environment is really more of an opportunity than the hindrance that it's been maybe the last 6-7 weeks?
That's a great question, Gary, and I think it is a timely question as well. As we're starting to see now the second round of PPP money getting exhausted throughout and working its way through to the smaller business owners this time around. The banks are pretty much getting through the applications side. Not like the 09 crisis. You're absolutely correct. This crisis is not a bank issue. So our banks are very healthy. Their balance sheets are very healthy. So banks are ready to lend. They absolutely have the capacity to lend. I think where we're going to see now is more of waiting for a lot of the regulatory issues to resolve itself, to allow most of these businesses to reopen up for compliance reasons. And also banks are going to look at stronger deals. Obviously, those borrowers. For example, let me give you step back a little bit. Before this happened, Gary, we had about 3 or 5 solid deals ready to close for business acquisitions that were absolutely buyer-seller agreements were done, appraisals, business valuations were completed, ready to checking off items off the closing checklist. All of a sudden, everything shut down. That prohibited us from closing those business acquisitions. The banks who got all hands on deck were focused on the PPP loans and processing PPP loans. I'm just starting to get some of those business acquisition loans back into the front radar of our lending partners.
Great.
And with that being said, hopefully there's not a lot of issues where they're going to ask us to have business reevaluated or having EBITDA before coronavirus, how are they going to evaluate, EBITDA in cash flows? But again, the banks are eager to get back into those deals and move forward on the closing process. We're also talking about new store development deals. So there's opportunities, like you mentioned, where a lot of these businesses that are going to that have been open and are struggling to find themselves being well capitalized to stay open, they might find themselves not being able to get back into the business. But that's going to create other opportunities for other businesses to pick up that slack and demand, consumer demand.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think there's going to be a tremendous opportunities for the stronger borrowers to come in, find those good value locations. I think you're going to have borrowers going to come in that's going to go back into the franchise or independent business acquisitions and find real true value to pick up these businesses at a good bargain, good opportunity. So the banks are going to do smart money going forward, but they're certainly going to be out there and actively lending and looking to proceed forward to, lending, putting capital into the marketplace.
Well, and that's great news to hear, because everybody has their own opinion. But when I speak with someone like yourself, an experienced banker, someone who is kind of in the trenches working with people, and to hear you say that, that carries a lot of weight for me, because when I speak to potential franchisees or my franchisor clients to kind of, quote you, in what you've just said back to them, I feel very confident that that's good information. So, good news. That to me, that's good news.
I would just say, Garrett, there's absolutely a pendulum shifting going on as we speak right now. From hey, we figured out, we got impacted by coronavirus, PPP money. Hey, now let's get back to opening up new, expanding.
Right.
I have one multi-unit operator. He is absolutely going to continue expanding, spending from store number 4 to number 5. I got another franchisee that I'm working with in the ophthalmology space. He's looking to do a second location as a conversion transaction. So people are positive, and they're absolutely looking to take advantage of the marketplace and get back to business as usual.
And that is music to my ears, and I'm sure the audience's ears. And again, it is a matter of timing. You want to be kind of there riding that wave. I've told some folks, if you wait 6 months to start up and other people have already started 6 months earlier, they're all ahead of you.
Exactly.
Okay, so timing is very, very important. So the last thing that I like to leave folks with is how people can contact you, either a website, an email address, phone number, or all three. Also, just to let you know, we will put your contact information in the webcast and on the different platforms. But if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
You can call my direct number, and that is area code 203-791-9998. Or our toll-free number is 1-800-BOC, B-O-C 1333. That's in my email address. I can give that as well.
Yeah, sure.
That's my first initial R, last name Heard, H-E-A-R-D, at Bankers, B-A-N-K-E-R-S, the numeral 1, and then capital, capital.com.
Great. And again, just keep in mind, the audience, just keep in mind, we will amplify this on LinkedIn. It'll be on the Franchise Growth Solutions website. It will be featured in Franchise Moneymaker. We're on various platforms, so all of Reggie's information you can get there. And of course, you can watch this over and over again if you'd like. We've been speaking with Reginald Heard, the founder and CEO of Bankers One Capital. Reginald, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in person pretty soon.
Absolutely, Gary. I want to say thank you for what you do as well for the franchise industry and the small business community. So thanks. Fantastic.
All righty, have a good one.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. All right, bye-bye.